One randomly out of the crowd to lead the Pledge of Allegiance. So, Mr. Jake Warner, would you please lead us in the pledge today?
Yes, didn't tell.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Nice call.
All right, trustees, any questions, comments? We need a review of the agenda? No. All right, we'll go to the part that I always tell people outside of this room. This is my favorite part about being a trustee, is seeing all the amazing people that come through, and it just really grounds us in all that we do and all the great things that happen in our school system. So I'll move right along with the recognitions. The first one is the 2025 Montana Thespian Festival recognition. If Mr. Zanto could come up and tee us up, that would be great.
evening, members of the board.
Yeah, no, it's pretty.
It's, oh, okay, all right, long time. Anyways, thank you for taking the time this evening with all of our recognitions of students. So, Montana Thespian Festival recognition, before I ask Mrs. Braco to come up, I just want to say a few words about her. First off, she just puts so much time and energy, effort into this program, which I'll get to here in a second. It's just her overall impact that she has in our building, just the continual rising popularity of her theater classes. She truly provides a place of learning and really just overall connection for so many students in our building. It really gives a lot of our students just a place to be, kind of that niche in the building. And go back to just the time and effort. I know that they wanted to hurry up. I know they wanted to be running from the beginning of the agenda because they have Mean Girls that they've been practicing, rehearsing for weeks, months, a couple of hours, 3 hours a night. I don't know. It's a lot. But anyways, I know that actually get back probably address rehearsal, or I know it's nearing completion because it starts next week. So anyways, I just wanted to say words for Mrs. Braco, but she can come up and maybe talk more about the Thespian Festival as well as our recognitions. So that's good. Yeah.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you, Mr. Zanto, for the introduction and support as always. The Thespian Festival is an annual meeting of drama troupes around the state. Usually it is at the beginning of February, which we at Capitol were thrilled about because we added a third main stage production to our season this year, which is The Mean Girls, which opens next Thursday, which worked out perfectly. You're going to take a 30, 45-minute section of The Mean Girls, bada bing, great. And then unexpectedly, they said, just kidding, it's in January, which is a bit of a surprise. But enter my amazing theater 2 kids. Out of this class of 12, only 3 have ever been in an after-school production before. But they can also just finish all my sons in class, which made them the perfect candidates to support the festival. To refresh your theater canon, just in case it's a little foggy, All My Sons was written by Arthur Miller, Crucible fame. It's not for the faint of heart. It is not something to cut your theater teeth on. But my rookie actors answered my plea to polish up a 40-minute scene from the play, and not only represented Capitol well in front of a state's worth of students, but Lexi Clough won the Outstanding Debut Award. This is her first time ever on stage in a performance, and to ask a sophomore to do that in front of a University of Montana theater full of people she never met was a huge ask, and frankly unfair of me to ask. But it was amazing. Their shows are adjudicated, and to watch the adjudicators ask, like, who's never been on stage before? And, 2, 3 raise their hand, they would, what? None, and so they were gobsmacked, to put it mildly, and I couldn't be prouder. So that's Betsy Clough. I'll go ahead and introduce both of my lovely young women at the same time, and then they'll come up. But Reese LaFond is, she was interviewed and elected to the State Thespian Officer Board by her peers as the state festival liaison. And this is an incredibly important position because it gives us a finger on the pulse and the planning of the next year's festival. So like if they, give a month in advance, you get to know. We are very lucky to have such a kind and motivated person in this position. This is amazing junior. So I'm glad I get her for one more year. And before I hand over the microphone to these amazing young women, I'd also like to give a shout out to Helena High and their troop, which was an absolute delight to watch as well. We were well represented as Helena. Thank you. Let's see.
Hey.
Okay. Hi, my name is Risa Pond, and I was elected as the State Festival Liaison for the Lesbian State Board of 2025 to 2026. This is a really special and incredible position for me because I've been involved in theater since before COVID and in 8th grade. So I've been in all of our productions as either in the cast or as a props head for the last few years, and to be elected to the State Board is a really exciting and incredible honor. I'm actually in Mean Girls right now, playing one of the semi-main roles, just why I have stage makeup on. And we open next week. Hi, I'm Lexi. I am a sophomore, and I'm also in the production of Mean Girls. I do lights crew, and I almost always have done lights crew. I never acted in front of anyone before. I auditioned for Just Another High School Play, but it was not the best. So yeah, this is my first time acting, and yeah, I'm nervous.
Congratulations. And on the other side of town, the Thespian Festival recognitions, Brian Kessler.
Chair, Superintendent Welts, members of the board, thank you for having us up here. I too am honored to introduce Mr. Roger Scruggs, who is our theater teacher and thespian leader at Helena High School. Many of you might have known Mr. Holter, who was the leader of our troupe for 2 decades. Not sure how many, 5, 6, 7. But with that comes, a lot of stuff. And so as part of Mr. Scruggs taking over, a lot of his work has also been to figure out what probably should still be in the theater, and updating some of that stuff for us. And through that, he's also had to work on rebuilding, a lot of our troupe, and getting us back to where we want to be. And he's done an amazing job with that. And our kids have done an amazing job building that. We probably are the smallest troupe currently, but it's kind of our new motto at Helena High, small but mighty, and what we're trying to accomplish and do. And our crew came back with the most awards of any school in the state with their shot time there. Their plays have been amazing so far this year. Mean Girls is great too. We have an upcoming Legally Blonde will be our spring production. So our kids are working on their events now. Comedy's not my thing, but I'll
Thanks, Brian.
I'd like to, welcome, thank you for having us here. I didn't know I was actually speaking. I had nothing prepared, but wanted to introduce Madeline Seacrest. She is our assistant drama coach and director of the show that went to Best Fest. And you can tell me about yourself there.
Hi, I'm not going to even attempt with the mic because I'm very, very small, but I'm a theater kid, so I'll project. I am just so honored and so full of pride because we got to perform The Importance of Being Earnest by Oscar Wilde at our Thespian Festival this year, and that is going to make me emotional. It's one of my very, very, very favorite plays of all time. And this spring we also get to do Legally Blonde, which is one of my very, very, very favorite plays of all time. And such an immense joy that we have a group of students that have the abilities, have the gumption, have the drive, and have the talent to put on 2 such productions. This year at our Thespian Festival, we were greeted by numerous accolades, which I'll let the students come up and discuss further in a minute. But I think more importantly, this year with our festival piece, we were able to study classic theater. I love that theater is also education. I love that we get to bring new language, new words, lots of new things to these students' minds, into their hearts, into their souls. I love that we've gotten to introduce so much more with which to move them and move our audience. I don't know a single human being who has not found solace, who has not found some sense of home, some sense of peace, some sense of joy in a book or a painting or a movie or a song. And that is the sort of thing that we get to teach our students to do every day. It's just such a beautiful thing. This year, 2 of our students were awarded with an Outstanding Performance Award. We were also awarded with the Outstanding Comedy Award for the 2nd year in a row. Outstanding costumes for Carl Zimmerman. The costumes were so beautiful. I wish we had pictures. And we were also honored with the award for an outstanding troupe this year. Is there anything else that you wanted to say?
No, I covered it all.
She did was good call.
So yeah, without further ado, I would just like to introduce those that have stepped up and kind of won those awards here for our troupe. There's a big cast. I mean, it's 7 in the cast, and then about 14 others, or 10 others.
Yeah.
So I'm not good at that. That we brought. So we brought 17 or 18 students to Des Fest, and they all worked incredibly hard, as well as like our tech theater class. They built and put together the set and kind of arranged things. And so it's nice, kind of a collaboration with some of the classes, being able to tie into the productions. So as mentioned, Carl Zimmerman here with an Outstanding Costume Award for design and creation of costume. Didn't just like find costumes, but actually put costumes, pulled them apart, had other people pull them apart, put them back together, fix them, adjust them, make skirts and stuff. Just an incredible job. Stuff that I did not even know we could do. Carl was able to do that. But thank you for everything. And then we have our 2 outstanding performers. Nadia Pulaski, junior. One outstanding performer, so a lead performer in a play. Anything you'd like to say?
I'm honored.
There you go. Thank you. And then Luke Wilkins, senior. Care to speech, sort of.
So yeah, I'm Luke Wilkins. I've been doing high school theater for a few years now, and it's been a lot of fun. I was actually able to do a show in the days of Mr. Bolter. It was actually his last show ever that he did at the school. With the show, I got to play the part of Algernon Moncrief, and that was a lot of fun. And one thing I was not expecting is, even if it was my first time going to Des Fest, and I won an award, which blew me out of the water. And I, just through theater, I've been able to learn a lot of cool things. I know our entire whiteboard like the back of my hand, and I want others to be able to have those sort of skills in theater to learn. Because theater can teach you so many more things than you ever expect anything to. So, yeah.
Congratulations.
Currently is the only one that actually knows how to run the system. And he self-learned last year out of necessity, and it's just mastered it. So it's amazing that you can give a student, say, here's this thing, we don't know how to work it, and they can find out how to work it. And
Absolutely.
that hands-on practical experience made it work, and now he's teaching other kids to do it. So that's just an amazing thing. So, and of course, we thank Madeline, for being an outstanding director.
All right, up next, United States Presidential Scholars Program, Mr. Zanto.
As far as the U.S. Presidential Scholars Program candidates that I'm fortunate to introduce here this evening, hoping that there's more than what I see here. But anyways, so what makes one of these candidates for this prestigious honor? So each year, over 5,000 candidates are identified for this program from across the country, of course, that focus on academic achievement. And it's based on having scored exceptionally well on the SAT or the ACT. Ultimately, up to 161 students are ultimately named as being a U.S. presidential scholar. So these students are now completing next steps in the application process to hopefully be named one named as a presidential scholar. So besides academic achievement, scoring exceptionally well on the SAT or the ACT, I just want to keep in mind these are just exceptional, well-rounded students participating in a wide variety of clubs, activities, and also some very talented musicians in band and orchestra as well. So I just want to make sure just to help solidify just how well-rounded these students are. So congratulations to our presidential scholar candidates from Capitol High. Of course, these are all seniors. So first off, Mika Arnsmeyer. Okay. So once again, Mika Arnsmeyer. Next, we have Kathleen Cook. I do see here. Next, Adeline Walters.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
finally, Mason Whitney. Okay, so I do know that they were all invited.
Chances are they're busy.
Kathleen is here, so Kathleen, if you could please come up and I don't know about your plans for next year and maybe some other plans.
Yeah, so my name is Kathleen. I am a senior at Capital. I am an NHS secretary and treasurer. I'm also the captain of our robotics team. We came into prison. We're also going to get together for that this year. We stayed this past weekend. I'm also involved in peer performance and student council like
What are your next steps?
I'm not sure where I'm going next year. I've been accepted to Notre Dame, which is pretty exciting. I'm also looking at MSU. Haven't decided yet.
Congratulations.
I think we're
And presidential scholars from Helena High School, Principal Kessler.
Just a couple other things for the presidential scholarship. For us, there's only 47 Montanans selected seniors to get given the offer to apply for this award. And so, I mean, 6 individuals from the Helena School District, 47. That's a pretty impressive for that. The development schools don't have that many, but
of course not.
so I just think that just is something that's important for us to recognize with that. For Helena High, we had Evelyn Callery. She was our nominee. I don't think I see her here today. But again, you know, with this, they're also looking into within some of the categories, looking at fine and performing arts. When we look at that, Evelyn, she was part of that thespian troupe that was just recognized. Her art is very incredible. And she's taken pretty much every AP class and test at our schools. So she definitely has high goals, and I know that she tries to meet those. She's also, we learned today, she's a National Merit Scholarship finalist, so she just kind of going it. Congratulations to everyone.
Thank you. All right, Presidential Award for Excellence in Mathematics, Principal Zanto.
So I'm actually going to read just some background information. That I received recently regarding this very prestigious recognition for some percent capitalized. So, dear Brad Neuendorf, we're pleased to notify you that Jake Warner. Yeah, I did say Brad Neuendorf. So when I got this email and I started reading, I'm like, who's Brad Neuendorf? So I think Sarah maybe even contacted the organization. But anyways, so we were pleased to notify you that Jake Warner and Sarah Urban have been selected to receive the Presidential Award for Excellence in Mathematics and Science Teaching, for which they applied while teaching at Capitol High School. The PAEMST program, administered by the National Science Foundation on behalf of the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy, recognizes outstanding teachers for their contributions to the teaching and learning of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Each awardee will receive a certificate signed by President Biden and a $10,000 reward from the National Science Foundation. Awardees will also travel to Washington, D.C. for an award ceremony at a future date. So certainly Jake Warner and Sarah Urban, they are definitely not strangers to any sort of recognition. And I know that they've received it in many different forms from students, from staff, from foundations, but they truly are outstanding teachers. They make learning fun. They form great relationships with their students. They're also very knowledgeable about their curricular areas. So I would like to ask Jake and Sarah to please come forward. And then they can also maybe discuss this nomination process a little bit, because it was a little bit confusing to me, just the various steps. So much work involved in this, but once again, congratulations to outstanding educators. So.
Madam Chair, Superintendent, you can go. So the Presidential Award for Excellence in Mathematics and Science Teaching, also known as PAPEST. Biden? I don't think Biden signed.
You can take it with you.
It's just the board chair and the vice chair, you know?
On its way.
But it was the highest honor given to math and science teachers. And it feels kind of interesting because here I am, here Mrs. Urban is. Actually, my wife, Mrs. Warner, actually just won it as well. So it feels like, dang, they give out a lot of these. However, that's not the case. They do elementary 1 year and then secondary. So that's 7 through 12 the next, and then they alternate back and forth. And they'll only give out one secondary math every other year. So to kind of break that down, to put it down, if in 20 years, they will only give out 10 awards that I would be eligible for. And the same could be said for Mrs. Urban. So super exciting like that. Rigorous application process. There's like 15 essay questions. You had to turn in evidence of effectiveness, a teaching video, had to get letters of recommendation. So super excited to be up here. I'd like to thank Mr. Santo. I'd like to thank you guys. Superintendent Welts, Assistant Superintendent McKay, who there he is. I know you guys' job is not easy right now. I know it's not hard right now. So thank you for everything that you do. And a special thanks to Mr. Zanto, because have you guys ever been a student in an English classroom and like they assign an essay and then your hand is like cramping up and it gets so tired? I feel like that's how Mr. Zanto must feel, because I'm always like hitting him up for letters of recommendation. Perfect.
All right, so I'm just gonna talk a little bit about the award as well. And just thank you so much for the recognition today, because it means a lot that you are such advocates for public education. And I know you've been spending a lot of your time to advocate for all of us in our buildings. So that means a lot to us. Thanks to Mr. Zanto, and also to Mrs. Kidder and Mr. Morris, because although we look lovely up here, we're sometimes a handful and a lot to take. So just thank you for supporting us in all of our kind of crazy ideas. And also just to the other staff in our department and the students, because they're all awesome too. A little bit about this award. So 4 probably here because you recognize us as state finalists. So Jake was a state finalist in 2021. And when he talked about getting that recognition, we talked about being at the vigilante parades that was out at the fairgrounds during COVID. So that's when he found out he was a state finalist for this award. And then this kind of drug out because we just found out last month about being a finalist. I was a science finalist with Megan Lane from CR Anderson, who was also a finalist in 2023. And so they were a little bit backlogged. And so when they announced our awards at the same time, we're actually 2 years apart in state finalists, but here we are at the same time. So in terms of the award, I think one of the best things about the award is that it really focuses on classroom teaching and about the ability to collaborate and to work to reflect on making sure that every student has the ability to get quality math and science education. And it's not just the students you always see recognized here, it's all students and being able to really help and teach kids at the level they're at and really make an impact for them. So I just want to say that it's a real big honor to be here because I think a lot of teachers in our school, in our district, in our state really work tirelessly to do that every day. And so it's an honor to be here to represent them. And just thanks for the opportunity to be here. So thanks so much.
Congratulations. Montana DECA Advisor of the Year.
Thank you again for having us up here today to recognize the successes we have going on at our two buildings currently. Today I'm honored to talk about the second teacher from Helena High this school year to receive an award related to the business professions. And that is Mr. Casey Askin, who was last week recognized by his students and peers as the Montana DECA Advisor of the Year. So this honor highlights not only the time Casey puts into his classes, but getting kids ready for a DECA event. There's a lot of after school work, weekend work, and then that classroom prep to make sure that it happens. Kids are ready to go for their competition. The key piece to this is Casey also works very hard building community partnerships to bring people in to help with business plans, get our kids ready to speak and do public speaking and build the skills that they need in order to compete. This hard work is going to allow him to take 14 Bengals to the national competition in Orlando this coming April. And very excited to see what Mr. Askin continues to do for our program. So congratulations to Mr. Askin on his honor.
It's always hard to talk about yourself. I was honored to be selected as the DECA Advisor of the Year. There's a lot of stiff competition. When you go to the state competition, we're one of the smaller ones. We walk in with Flathead and it's Gallatin that have probably 140 to 200 members. We've grown our program at Helena High to, we took 23 this year. That was a big jump for us. And so I was very proud of the kids. Out of the 23, we've got 14 to qualify for nationals. So we're excited about that. Add to the fact that it's in Disney World. That's not a bad thing. We're excited until I gave them the bill and showed them how much it was going to be. But then we'll get to that in a second. And so also I wanted to tell you that we did have gold recertification. One of the things that you can do for DECA is you can put in for your school store gold certification or different levels of certification. We recertified for gold again, which allowed us to take 2 students to nationals. And then one of the big accomplishments I'm really proud of is Mackenzie Groom, one of our members, got elected as a state officer for DECA. And that's a big deal. And to have, it's almost always gone to the bigger programs that have state officers. And for Helena to have a state officer, I'm not sure the last time it's been, but it's been a long time. I think since we've had a state officer, it might be since Miss Freeman did it when she was in high school. It was the capital advisor. I think I'm not sure if she's the last one, but she did it when she was in high school. And so that's pretty cool for Mackenzie. She'll get to become a state officer and then come in and help with all the state preparations next year for DECA. And it's a big deal. The last thing I want to say is that we're doing our major fundraiser. If you're all aware, I hope you're all invited to coming to Night to Shine. This next
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. That's this guy. And he is coming in and it's smoking. And he's struck. I mean,
Yeah.
guys,
Oh, yeah.
you want to see something spectacular, come check it out. And you're going to help us pay for getting those students to Disney World. So that's a great thing. So Night to Shine, Tuesday night. Don't get your tickets. Hell, Civic Center. I got my plug.
That's really well done. Nice. That was great. Nice job, Peter.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Right. It's gonna be hard
What's
to
it-
follow
I
that.
know.
Minute well.
Surprised they all left. Yeah. Can you hear? Okay,
Yeah.
I'm using a different mic. Just remember, these mics are pretty weak, so we need to lean into them so that people can hear. I think online's all right. It's in the back. It gets to be a problem. Night to Shine, last year, I think we had a board meeting on that Tuesday, I believe. So interesting. I want to thank, we have Mr. Kessler, Mr. Zanto here. It's not on my agenda, but I want to thank them for continuing every board meeting introductions, being here and celebrating their successes. So thank you both for being here and doing what you do today and every day. It's the 100th day of school last Friday. So that's a milestone for us, right, moving forward. About 80 days left of school. So we're on the other side of it. Hence the daylight's getting longer. I'll go through recognition, new business, and then obviously the outreach. I want to, as I mentioned last board meeting, thank you to all of those that participated in the tax credit. Nearly $300,000 of incentives that were moved our way, up from $27,000 the year before. So a lot of that I want to give credit to our communication specialists, Karen and Barb, Janelle, and then pushing all that information out. So it was really well perceived, and we are thankful for that. I think we had the most submissions out of it. We may not have the most contributions, but the most submissions, which means that the word got out. And we already have plans for a better 2025-26 year. I want to thank Principal Ms. Schenkel at 4Gs and her staff for hosting us at our work session last 2 weeks ago. And then congratulations to Wilma Terabak. He is the Warren Elementary Kindergarten teacher for 105.3 Teacher of the Month. We have the Appreciation Week and/or Day, so National School Counselors. Again, every year, it seems like there's more and more for counselors to do. And so we want to appreciate them and recognize their work within our schools, K-12, and then also our SROs. There's Appreciation Day, but it's really appreciation for them in general. We appreciate having them in our buildings. And our partnership with the city of Helena. They do a really great job of supporting us and us them. Mr. McKay put together, the Board of Public Ed asked to come and visit our charter schools. And so Mr. McKay did a lot of work. I had to leave for family need out of state. And Mr. McKay put a lot of time and energy in hosting the Board of Public Ed. They had a really tremendous time seeing our charter schools in action. And I think that the Board of Public Ed, part of their mission is to go see all charter schools throughout the state. I thought it was just because of proximity and they're here that they picked on us and they're going to come see us, but that's not true. They really are going out across the state. And then again, the foundation, we all attended the trustee appreciation that HEF put on at Mediterranean. So we want to thank Lisa and her team and Becca for their work. That being said, Miss Courtney, would you mind coming to the podium for a minute? Yeah, I bet you would too. We got more new business, but there's been an announcement, but it's really a quick announcement. So when I think even at our appreciation, there's tissues under there if you need some. At our appreciation, she did mention as she stood up and said through that, and you may not have caught it, but it was by the way, this is all the things we're doing. She really appreciates you. And oh, by the way, I'm retiring. Boom, sat down. And most of you, she spoke faster than I normally do at that time. So I want to slow that down. Lisa has given her tenure up. She's retiring at the end of this year. We'll be seeking a new executive director for the Board of Education, or Board of Helena Foundation. That being said, here's some things that Lisa has accomplished in her 16 years and 8 months to be exact. So in her 17 years of leading the foundation, Great Ideas Grants, Spark Grants, she's given out 585 total grants totaling over $1 million worth of grants. Great Conversations, there's 5,512 community participants and about 785 thought-provoking topics through those Great Conversations. Carnival Classic, nearly 2,000 participants per year, times that out, times the 16 years. There's about 32,000 kids that took part in Carnival Classic. Fabulous First, nearly 15,000 books, just under, given out to first grade students. Let's talk about great teachers. Nearly 150 great teachers that have been celebrated through that remarkable event. Pen and Ink. We published about 873 student works in pen and ink. Harrison Writing Award, about $20,000 to 75 aspiring student writers. Going to the Sun Award, spring of 2025, will award about 350 to 4 students for their visual artwork. Trading Places that we all know of, about 250 Helena Public School principals and administrators. Traded places with government, nonprofit, and community business leaders throughout the community. The Issue Institutes presented about 53 institutes with over 120,000 participants, and special projects. The first Bison Fest, successful in seeking numerous Boeing grants, and successful in receiving a Turner Foundation grant. So in your 16 years and 8 months, you have done a lot. I tried to encapsulate the amount of miles that you traveled this community. I don't think I do your car justice, but you have traveled all over. Also to be known, Lisa is the foundation under her guidance in the 17 years is really the AA model or lighthouse of what a foundation looks like. And so she brings in people that ask her questions and how do you run a successful foundation? And she tells them, and often they don't listen and go back and do their own thing, but they'll never be as good as this. And I've said this before. I've been in 3 states and I've been doing this in 4 decades or 30 years, if you will. I've never had a finer foundation that recognizes teachers and students the way that ours do here in Helena. It makes us a very special place. And so, yes, we do have big shoes to fill, and we will. It will never be another Lisa. There will never be a Lisa and Tom that has provided this community with what they have. But we are thankful for your service to our students and our staff in this district. Thank you. Yeah, I think so. Getting a look. Let's stop. I would also state that this is the first of several. I know you don't like it. It's hard on you, and I understand why. Your passion, your love for what you do, it's hard to step away from, but I don't think you'll be forgotten. You'll be back in some light in this community, and we hope that happens. So thank you for what you do. Can you, or would you like to say something?
That's good. Any of those things, if the community had listened. So. That's all I'm gonna sit right down right now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have Scott and Eric on, and they can come up live. All right, new business. That was fun. She had to take it. We are going to run through new business, HB 332. There's an acronym that John Doran's using right now, and it's just for simplicity's sake. Let's just call it House Bill 332. We know that's coming at us. We had 15 minutes scheduled for John the other night, and it took an hour and a half of questioning. So obviously of importance. There's some big decisions before us, and so my team. Their recommendation to me was that we need better information, and so we started a partnership with USI. USI is a consulting firm around health insurance that is going to help us make a decision from the lens of someone that's or an organization that's not biased, that doesn't need us to join or keep ourselves self-funded. Really a lens that gives us really good, accurate information. I know another AA district is doing the same thing. And so we had a meeting with Scott and Eric this morning. And I thought later this afternoon, it'd be really great for them to be able to just to tell you who they are, what they do, and what's the end product, and what are we going to be able to use from their data. And I call it a deep dive into our own numbers. And so Scott or Eric, whoever would like to take off, and I gave him again, you got 5 minutes to introduce yourself and let us know what the product is going to look like and how we're going to use it. So take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Rex. My name is Scott Haas, and also on the you can see is Eric Davis. Eric and I are 2 of 3 principal consultants of a national healthcare consulting practice that resides inside of USI. We were currently hired as the consultants for the state of Montana Employee Health Plan in 2024. And we've also provided healthcare consulting to Kalispell Public Schools for the last 8 years, and have other clients on the non-governmental side throughout Montana. We have a unique focus and on data and analytics, and basically work from a perspective of healthcare risk management. And through that process, what we've done is created a statement of work that we are going to be engaging on behalf of Helena Public Schools, where we're going to get your healthcare data, which we actually received from Allegiance this afternoon. And we're going to be reaching out and getting your prescription benefit management data from Express Scripts. And our ultimate goal and objective is to bring that in and to essentially do an analysis around the actual funding rates, how your contributions are structured, looking at how your plan design maps up against Missoula and Kalispell actually, so that we can give you an actuarial value and a competitiveness profile of where your plan resides within those 3 districts. But then by doing that, what our ultimate goal is to present you all with an opportunity to make a business decision that is critically important to every school district in the state of Montana right now. But to be able to do it from a position of information and analytics that'll basically show you, what you're, currently maybe wanting to restructure your plan a bit from a mechanical perspective, and then also provide some insight on how your plan actually rates out against these other districts that we work with. So at a very high level, recognizing we only have 5 minutes and don't want to take up a lot of time, that's what we're endeavoring to do. We are going to be in Helena on March, Missoula on the 4th of March, and Helena on the 5th to present the results of the work that we're going to be doing in the next few weeks here.
Very good, Scott. Does Eric want to add anything to that, or is he here for moral support?
I don't think I need to add much to that, but on a personal note, my father's a recovering actuary, and my mother was a PhD in children's psychology and a school counselor. So we like to crunch numbers and have group hugs.
Let's go together.
I think you're going to fit in just fine.
Well, you guys have a hard enough job as it is, and we want to be able to make sure that when you're faced with the type of decisions that you're faced with, that you've got an unbiased approach to making that decision and making it work for you, the district, and the taxpayers.
Yeah, that's exactly why you're here. We need that. Our specialty are kids and standards. We do that pretty well, but what we're not into is the insurance business. And so we need expertise around that. That's unbiased. It's going to give us the information, the tools that we can make a decision. That's the reason why we brought them on. So we appreciate questions for either Eric or Scott. Yes.
Everyone's looking at you.
I know. I was like,
Very excited. I love an actuarial table. Who doesn't? And I love
Thanks.
All right,
With that, we'll just have to save our follow-up questions for the 5th of March.
agree, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Scott and Eric, appreciate it.
Appreciate
You guys-
Take care.
All right, that's new business coming at us. Technology, the technology levy, obviously, we've talked about that. We've moved through some messaging quite a bit. We listened to the community. We knew that last year our ask was heavy. In fact, Gary, do you want to speak a little bit about your technology levy that's on actually the agenda tonight? So you have a handout? No? All right.
So I've talked about this quite a lot over the last few years. I just wanted to point out a few things about this year's levy proposal that I think are really. The first two are that we're really responding to the feedback that we got. So the levy ask this year is really less than a quarter of the levy ask was last year. So really responding. One of the frequent things we heard was that we just asked for too much. So we've made that a lot smaller. The second component is that this is a non-permanent levy. So it's a 10-year levy. We'll go out for it again in 10 years. But that was another thing that came up again in a lot of our community feedback was that, people are really not looking at perpetual levies in a positive light. So that said, the other thing about this levy that I really want to talk a lot about is how critical it is for maintaining our technology operations. So we're not really talking about increasing things or bringing in a lot of new technology. In fact, we're quite happy with the technology complement that we have right now. Mission of the technology department is supporting teachers in their connection with students. We feel like we have the technology to do that. The problem that we're facing is our current levy, which has been around for 20 years, just doesn't allow us to keep doing that. So we're approaching a cliff with device replacement that I've talked about. We've been funding at about half of what we should be funding over the last 2 years. We had some extra dollars to help us out, but we don't have any more. So we're really at a point where it's going to be very hard for us to proceed without additional funds. And so, the question that might come up is, why is it that you need $4 million a year to run the technology department? When you think about it, the components of that, it kind of breaks down into fourths. So 1/4 really is licensing and services. So that's our internet connection. We have paper licenses on everything, our door locks to software licenses that we use, our student information system, our email products, all that stuff requires licenses. And that model of pricing didn't exist in 2000. So this is something that has evolved since then. That market is different than it was in 2000. When we passed that initial levy in 2004 for $1.1 billion, what we really were talking about was buying technology, right? So devices to put in the hands of teachers and students. We have that technology. We know what it is. It's still there. We have a high need for it. That's how we deliver all our curriculum that our teachers and students need. But there are so many components of that. Technology has permeated our work, our life in a way that, we couldn't even fathom in 2004. It's just a lot different. The second fourth is, a conservative device replacement cycle. So we're talking about replacing things every 7 or so years as they start to, not be usable. And that's really a cycle that you have to maintain if you want to be able to do the things that you do. It's really about confidence. Then the third part is infrastructure and projects. So every once in a while, to keep your internet working, you've got to update the wiring in your buildings, and you've got to update the switches. You've got to update the routers. You have to do that on a cycle. And when you push that cycle out 10, 12, 15, 20 years, you get to a point, and we've seen this with all our deferred maintenance across the district. We can push it out for a long time, but when you do that, you eventually set yourself up in a spot where if something breaks, you're not going to be able to fix it, or it's going to cost you so much to fix it that the cost is really prohibitive. So that's that $3 million. And then the fourth one is really the service and the staff. So you need to have people on staff that can fix things when they break. Our department's very small. It's only about a dozen people. We deal with about 500 work requests per month. You all know this, they've done this lots of times. So really that's about one technician for every 700 users if you think about the size of the district, students and the staff that we have. So it's a pretty small department, but we do good work to support the teaching. So those are my brief levy updates. That's why I think this levy is so critical and so important. Again, I think we've been responsive to community needs. We're hopeful about that. Happy to provide information for anybody who wants to listen. I talk about this all the time. I think probably my friends and family have gotten a little bit sick of it. So that's not going to change. So I'm going to talk about it, keep putting it out there. I think information is what people need in order to make decisions about this. So
Questions or comments for Mr. Myers? Trustee Armstrong?
You're so kind. You have refrained from talking about the state required testing and how the additional technological load is
severely impacting us. Do you want to share that a little bit? Because a lot of the strain is we're just trying to keep up with complying with the state.
It really is. So we really need devices in order to be able to deliver those state tests, but we don't receive the initial funding for that. So you must complete these tests, you must complete this reporting. Good luck paying for that. That's kind of the way this works. So, and then that may be a little bit of a certification. I guess the implications that you will include that cost in your general fund. But the reality, as we know, is that that's very tough staffing. So yeah, it absolutely is a tough demand. The reporting requirements and the testing requirements that the district or that the state has put on the district have increased dramatically. I've seen that particularly over the last 2.5 years. Since COVID, it's been on the increase, but it's been ramping. It's taking a lot of classroom time and supporting those devices and keeping up with that reporting so that it all happens in the way that it needs to happen. It takes a lot of time and honestly takes a lot of person work hours to support it. So yes, it's definitely additional cost. It's definitely something that we haven't seen funding for, and one of the reasons why this thing is like that.
I just want to say I'm very thankful that we looked really carefully at what happened last year. Need to get the word out there. It's been 11 years now since we've had a tech levy. Is that right?
20, actually. Yeah, the tech levy that we currently have for a little over $1.1 million was passed in 2004 and go there.
Okay, so even further.
20.
Right. And I think getting the information out and getting it, having people really understand that these are essential pieces that we need for our school district to function. I'm really hopeful that we'll be able to get the support that we need. So thank you.
Yes, I appreciate that. I think it's a good point to emphasize that we're really talking about supporting the teaching and learning that goes on in the classroom. So it's not about screen time for kids. It's about providing teachers with the tools that they need to deliver engaging lessons and having technology that lets that happen. So we need to have an internet that's fast enough that when a teacher pulls up statistics, those statistics load quickly and they can see that. We need to have internet that's fast enough in classrooms that when students are accessing their textbooks, they can do it quickly. So we're really up or out to support that mission. That's all.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Myers. Oh, I think we're going to pull you right back.
I don't really even have a question.
That's all right.
It's another one of my famous comments. I love this very simple explanation of where all this money will go. I think it'll make it really easy to talk about. And these are things that people can understand. And to your point about screen time, that is something that people are talking about. And if you haven't had your hands on a school district Chromebook, I stress that they're not a normal computer. Like this is not, and I mean that in a really, really good way, a really good way. Like it's not a way for kids to scroll their lives away. A school district Chromebook is the most buttoned down piece of technology that exists. And they're just a tool for the job. And anyway, if you don't play with a Chromebook very often, then you really can't play with them. There's nothing to play on. They are a very stripped down, get the job done educational tool. And, so anyway, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. And I agree. I don't know that there's anyone who would describe a school Chromebook as their ideal device.
No.
Which, like I said, that's exactly how it is. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Myers.
Perhaps put that in perspective, that $4 million divided by the number of students and staff we have per year, that's about $450 a year that we'd spend on technology per person. That's including all the software, all the licensing, the devices. So I think it's just nearly $450, which isn't a lot for the amount of technology that serves this district per person. Moving on, we know that we're into the pre-bond phase of a master facility planning with SMA. Their team has already been out to Capitol, been at Helena High and Kessler, or headed to Kessler. I want to point out one important fact of that. So I also, at the bottom of this, noted that we're looking at our activities and our activities facilities, predominantly the outside external facilities. As we look at and potentially you approve a bond, we're going to have to encroach in on some areas of where students have access to facilities, such as practice fields, softball fields, tennis courts, and just the footprint of new structure could encroach in on those. And so we really need to make sure that we have the answer if this happens and you approve and we move forward with a a yes vote, then we need to make sure that we have a spot designated for our activities to take place during construction. And so we don't want to be caught off guard. And that conversation with Mr. McMahon is taking place. He'll work with his coaches, just finding alternative locations so that during construction, we'll have a place for our teams to compete and or practice. So that's taking place. I did mention before that we're working with the county, again, getting ahead of this of our bond, is that we met with Lewis and Clark Elections Office, and we asked if we could potentially move that up to an early October, late September election date. There were a little bit of hesitation around that, just for the fact of manpower and volunteers coming in a 30-day window, and how does that work with the general in November? So Tim Meldrum and I met again with the elections office. Now, remember, this isn't a nice to have move. This is really necessities for the fact that when we open, if we were to have a bond election successful in November, on the 4th, that Tuesday, then we really wouldn't be able to open those new schools if we had a successful campaign until the 2029 year. We really need the September, October date so that we can open the doors in the fall of 2028. All right, there's a year's difference there. So this isn't just a throw a dart at a calendar and say where it lands. SMA built us backwards, saying we need to have an election early in this fall of 2025 so that we can have the timeline we need to open the doors start of 2028. So after that meeting, we were informed yesterday that they would comply with that wish, is that we will have an election if you approve to go out. We haven't gone there yet. I'm not trying to overstep. I'm just getting ahead of it. If we approve to go out for a bond election, then that would take place September 9th. We can always back that off, but at this point, we're moving forward. 2025 legislation session, I put down busy. There's a lot going on. As you know, Mr. Snellman, as our student rep, has done a remarkable job. I've seen early in the morning our trustees testifying and supporting public education. I am proud of the work that you've been doing. There's been a lot of action in the Capitol on behalf of public ed. And so I appreciate the trustees and our students. I have more that would like to engage. And so I love that opportunity for us to participate in this year's 2025. I see more advocacy this year than I have in recent years. And so I appreciate your work there. Of importance right now, SARS bill was in appropriations today. That's the additional money. That's, I think, 252, House Bill 252 was in appropriations. It looked like it was going well. They were meeting as we were walking into this meeting. In appropriations, one we were looking closely at is the House Bill 320. That was in appropriations today as well. Melissa Romano is pushing on a 6th grade funding bill, and I think that's 390. I want to say it's 339 perhaps. So that's the 6th grade funding or centered around CTE. That is important. That came from 339. That was the resolution that Bozeman put out several months ago at the start of the session. That was of importance, and we recognize that as well. Remember, 6th graders are funded at a different level than 7th and 8th grade, though it looks very similar with their day-to-day schedules. So that's important for us as well. So there's a lot of work every week. It just seems like it's ramping up. We should be getting close to transmittal, where we're swapping floors here pretty quick. And then we're down in the downhill side of this thing. So there's a lot happening right now. And I appreciate all the coalition and the people that are supporting public ed. Can you pull up that central? Seems like my superintendent report's going for a while here. I have a lot to share. Josh, or Mr. McKay, Ms. Ridgway and I were fortunate enough to be invited to SMA through a competition, if you will, an inter-organization competition, and it's centered around Clint Fisher. And so Clint helped design Central, and it was really something that he felt very proud of. And often, as we found out, would talk to family and friends about that was really important piece of work for Central Elementary. And in it, we had talked about, I think we had a trustee during the memorial at Central had said it'd be nice if we were able to do something here to memorialize Mr. Fisher and his work here. So that started a opportunity within SMA to have teams come up with ways that they could do that at Central. Miss Fisher, Jessica was with there. Mr. Radley's been in the process. We got to go listen. If you through Clint's desire, some of the things, his passions, he really enjoyed fishing and he liked rivers. And so you can see there was a commonality in all of the team's projects around rivers and streams and fishing. And so you can see that other than a tree, we do have out on the northwest side of that property, there are trees planted in memory of others. So that's one option. I do, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 all have areas. The Humpty Dumpty Wall, which is the southeast corner of the building. You can see that in 2 and 3. We have the playground area in 4, where you can see kind of ripples and it mimics the streams where kids can sit. It's all heavy duty concrete. It'll last. I would note that this is no cost to the district. This is going to come up through donations and through organizations. We will vet this out a little further, but I believe there's going to be some combination of all those into one. But I think it's really important to remember the work that he did, the community member that he was, and still has a legacy here. So that, just wanted to bring that to your attention. That's still not decided yet. I think they have some wagers going on at SMA, but what one they're going to land on. But that's those are the 6 projects that they're looking at right now. I'm going to save this one for facilities. That I think perhaps Mr. Hindoing can start us out, but Mr. Armstrong, you can finish it up during reports out at the end. Just that our tour yesterday, in the middle of the cold, we were able to go out and visit Helena High, Capitol, and Kessler. We jumped on a bus and it worked out well. Did I skip over Barb? Winter conditions. Let's go back because Barb is thinking I was going to forget about her. Obviously, it's been cold, and I want to make sure that we've had some questions, and I want to put this out in the public, is that we don't just wake up in the morning and go, I wonder if we should go out to recess. We have processes, we have procedures. All right, there's reasons why we do things. And so, Ms. Ridgway, you want to come up and talk a little bit about what does it look like for buses and what does it look like for recess? Decisions to either stay in or go out.
So when the weather's treacherous, we start driving the roads. I use that term loosely. Drew starts driving the roads about 3:30, and then he determines whether buses can run on particular roads. We usually are in Birdseye and some of those more challenging places. And then and earlier this week we did decide, or last week, we weren't running 3 routes. Then as soon as he's done, he calls me, and then I let schools know. Our families with children who ride buses are all notified through an automated system. They get a warning the night before, be advised, and if we're going to cancel a route, we let them know we're going to cancel a route. Sometimes we cancel a route in the morning and run it in the afternoon, depending on what the conditions are like. We have a contract that says at 30 below, we don't run buses. And that means not in one spot, but generally 30 below or more. If it's minus 40 below, we have that in the contract. Guidelines about what our expectations from parents, we go to students at the end. I would say though, it's possible compared to have to send me a picture of their mom at the school. 4:45. Hadn't heard from him. And I said, where are you? In North Pole. He said, no, it's warmer at the North Pole. It's only minus 22 there. If it's 0 or colder, it's over outside. Don't smoke it. But I think the big thing though is that we have contracts with our bus company that shows their expectation coming in during the bus system.
No, it's true. I just look at the weather. We're starting to jump back in the 20s and 30s here coming at us. But that cold snap that we typically see across Northwest in February hits us, and people question why are we running buses, and it's in our contract. So perhaps a little more communication out to our public so they know what the expectations look like. We'll work on them. Moving on. The rest of this goes pretty quickly. We are working on our summer jumpstart. That's that summer school program that's coming up for 2025. Ms. Mizell's working through HR with CMS, still on the compensation manual and classification tools. Last Monday, the 3rd, I believe, was the second count. Remember, that's the second half of our A and B. So that's important. That took place last week. Food service, copy, and workman comps RFPs are working through completion. And then Mr. McKay, as I said before, is working through the accreditation process. Is Mr. Verrill around? Did he escape on me? One thing that's not on here, I just want to give you a heads up. I started nearly 5 years ago, and in that, one of the first things that we dealt with prior to Mr. Verrill was, there you are, was I need some support here. We ended up replacing some electrical out at Capitol because we had issues with some anomalies that we couldn't explain. And we felt like there was from our meter to the house or to the school. Maybe that was part of it. So we replaced a major line through there and breaker. Mr. Zanto would tell you, Mr. Verrill would tell you, our students would tell you that randomly that building shuts down, power's off completely. The other night it was cold out, it was a girls' basketball game, maybe JV halftime, and we lost power in the entire school, including the gym. And so we have a building full of individuals for 30 to 40 minutes before our electrician could come back on site and re-energize the building. We cannot figure it out. We've changed. We've found some issues. We fixed it. It went away for 9 months and now it's back. It is just one of those things that we are not able to put our fingers on yet, and you may hear about it. It's been kind of a proverbial thorn in my side for 4 years now. We can't figure it out. Todd, you want to have, what else can you say about where we're at?
Here today, Miss Ames, an electrical contractor who's been working with us for quite a long time to try to figure out what's happening. So we've got a plan to try to diagnose the problem. Unfortunately, it's not easy and it's not inexpensive. So we're going to try the least inexpensive options first, which is to replace some of the breakers in the building. We have an 800 amp breaker, which we installed not too many years ago. Or the main disconnect for the main building, we installed a new breaker on the outside, and that's the one that's tripping. We've done work at that school over the last 4 years. We put in a new transformer so that we could break out power to the CTE building. We've never had problems with that building now. So those lights stay on when the main building lights go off. So we know it's not service to that building. We think it's something inside of the main building at Capitol High that's tripping that main breaker. Now, so the main electrical room has a bunch of big panels. It's called switchgear. It's like a giant breaker box for the school, like you have in your house, but giant. We've had upgrades in that building in 1964 when it was being built, in 1973 when we did some addition, 1981 when we did something, 1997 when we did an addition, and then in 2002-ish when we cut out the CTE building on its own power supply. So some of the switchgear in that building is original. So it's beyond its useful life. The point is, we don't know what the problem is. We're going to keep working on it. There is a distinct possibility that whatever money we put into that is a sunk cost. I'm going to try to avoid that. Whatever we put into that building, if we can reuse it, either at that building or another building, we will. Because when and if we do a remodel of that building, I don't really want to throw perfectly good equipment in the landfill. So we're working through that right now. My meeting was today. They'll come back with a recommendation. I'll obviously brief the committee on what we recommend doing. But in the meantime, Chad, our electrician, is on speed dial, and he's able to frantically get over to Helena or to Capitol High and flip all the switches wearing his rubber gloves, and then get the power back on. And it's not an ideal situation, but it is what it is, and we're working through it. And I wish I had something more to tell you, but more to follow in the future. Any questions of me right now? Okay, yeah, Helena High is not alone.
Are we tracking like what the loads are maybe when this happens?
So we've done that, yes, and Northwestern Energy did it as well. They put it on monitor on their equipment to see if it was something from their side. They said no, that they didn't detect anything when we had power outages. We also had equipment on there, but it was only recording at intervals. Like every 10 seconds it would record. So the last time it happened, of course, the power outage happened in between that interval and we didn't catch it. So we're going to reinstall monitors that we're going to probably purchase so that we have them. And we're going to have, they're going to be more widely distributed and connected via the internet so they can talk to each other and talk to us so that we know in real time what's happening. And hopefully from that, we'll be able to deduce where the problem is.
There's no real consistent pattern to it.
There is zero pattern.
It's not when we spool up in the morning with big cookers because we have our central kitchen over there. It's not when we have a gym full of people. It'll happen at 2:00 in the morning. It'll happen at 10:00 in the morning. It just doesn't make sense. And so we can't put our finger on like every time we do this, that happens. That's not taking place. So one thing I do know is, as I told Todd, we can't have the school keep shut down. I mean, it's been years that we got to figure this out. And so he's in a mission to help find out what's going on. I'm sure that Mr. Someone could talk a little bit more about this during his report that power keeps going out in this classroom.
Oh, hey, it's cool. Just off the presses, the power just went on at Capitol High. There we go.
You plan.
So I'm getting the bus and drive down. So there we go. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Burrow.
Yeah, exactly.
Tuesday night, anything going on over there? Outreach, a lot going on. So that concludes my superintendent report.
Okay.
I'm sorry it was so short.
Any questions for Superintendent Wells? Trustee Armstrong?
Yeah.
Tomorrow, I just want to ask on the 6th grade bill, 339, is that being heard in committee tomorrow at 3 or?
It's tomorrow. The House meets Monday, Wednesday, Friday, most likely. I think the first reading was yesterday. So I would.
My notes say it's waiting on executive action.
Is it?
That's what I got. I don't know, 100% that sure.
Stay tuned. I'll let you know in 10 minutes.
39. Was it heard?
I did.
Because
I have the bill explained.
I do, yeah, I'll second. Oh, it's Friday. It's today.
It went through hearing yesterday. So I'm assuming probably.
Yeah,
not
so that was
executive
that
action
deadline,
yet.
yeah. But I don't know what the schedule is and how that works.
Trying to move it fairly quickly, but it depends. Could be tomorrow, could be Friday.
So the coalition will put out information tonight, usually hits about 8 to 10 o'clock about what's going to take place the next morning. So we'll find out more tonight.
Any other questions? All right, we'll move on to general public comment. This is the time for comment on public matters that are not on the agenda. Public matters do not include any pending legal matters, private personnel issues, or private student issues. Please do not attempt to address such issues at this time or you'll be ruled out of order. The board cannot enter into a discussion during general public comment. Do we have any in-person general public comment? Candace, do we have any online general public comment? Thank you. All right, new business. We'll go on to the consent action items. Does anyone have any questions or concerns or discussion items concerning the consent action items? All right, do I have a motion for the consent action items?
That's when I move approval of action.
A motion by trustee McKee. Second? I'll second. Second by trustee Walsh. Are there any further board comments before we vote? Any public comments before we vote? Okay. Okay. Okay, great. All right. Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Okay, items for action. One, we've gotten a little forward from the superintendent's report, but a call for an annual election.
Ms. Mickelson, would you like to help us out?
Get up or
Well,
what do you want? I guess you want me.
You got it.
Okay. So you have two resolutions in front of you, one for the elementary and one for the high school to call for the election. You have to call for the election 70 days prior. Election day is May 6th. On the ballot will be 3 trustee positions that are coming up vacant. Potentially an operational levy for the general funds, although I highly doubt it for the high school. But we'll call for it and cancel it if need be. And the 2 technology levies, one for the elementary and one for the high school. We don't know the amounts of any operational levy at this point. We'll have to wait until spring count and legislature before we can decide if that's even possible or if we want to do it. But we have to call for it. And then if we decide we don't want to run it, we can cancel. We do know that we want to put the technology fund levies on there. We just don't have the amounts narrowed down yet. Or the year. I mean, go 10 years, but so we're still deciding on that. So we'll call for it, and later in March, you'll approve the ballot, the actual ballot language that will go on the ballot. And the county has requested that information by March 28th. So I'm foreseeing we'll do that at the work session. That'll give us enough time to solidify it and them enough time to prepare. We could cancel the election, and I could see this happening, the trustee election, if we had the same number of candidates as open positions. But that does include write-ins. So that's what I have in front of you, and superintendent's recommendation is that you call for the election. Questions?
I got a comment, just
Sure.
on the reason for the number that we haven't posted that number is that I want to wait until transmittal to see if there's any movement in technology funds from the state, right? Would then lessen the need from asking our taxpayers. Though I feel comfortable with asking 2/3 less or asking 1/3 of what we asked for before. If there's any movement that comes out from the state, just given the nature that across Montana, every student needs support around technology. And if there's some money coming from there, then I would offset that from the ask. But we're going to wait a couple more weeks and see if there's any movement. I'm not hopeful, but let's just see where we're at though.
Right. Do I have a motion for calling of the elementary resolution calling for the annual regular election for the elementary district?
Chair Hawthorne, I move that we approve the resolution calling for the annual regular election for Elton Elementary School District number 1.
Motion by trustee Hendoin. Is there a second? Second. Second by trustee Satchery. Any further questions before we vote? Any public comment? There's none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 7-0, the elementary item. And the same thing for the high school. Do I have a motion for the high school calling for the regular election, annual regular election?
Chair Hawthorne, I move that we approve the resolution calling for the annual regular school election for Helena High School District.
Thank you, trustee Hendoin. Is there a second? Trustee Armstrong. Second by trustee Armstrong. Any further questions or conversations? Is there further comment? Before we vote? None. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed. Motion passes 8-0. Okay, next up, Capitol High School Auditorium Stage Lighting Upgrades Project. Ms. Farrell?
Yes,
Do you have that wiring figured out?
Yeah, it's all figured out. Yeah, we got it figured out. Thanks. Appreciate it. Okay, good evening, Todd Farrell, Facilities Director. So in front of you, you should have a memo that I wrote. And today I'm just gonna go over some bullet points so I don't have to read it. Anyways, the Facilities Department conducted a public bid opening on Friday, January 24th for the Capitol High Auditorium Staged Lighting Upgrade Project, which is to replace the lighting that shines on the stage in Capitol because it's been having issues turning off at random times, separately from the main issue with the building. So yeah, it's a different issue. So we received 4 bids from contractors. The bids ranged in price from $141,100 to $166,267. Eagle Electric submitted the lowest bid. During the bid opening, we noticed that there was a few irregularities to the bid packages that were provided. So Eagle Electric had one of those irregularities. And what it was, in the bid documents that went out to the public and to contractors, there was instructions that if there was any changes to the project after it was announced, that the contractors had to acknowledge that change in an addendum form. So there was a change. The contractor said, oh, we made a mistake in the bid documents. We have to make this small change. They put that out to the contractors, and then they have to say, okay, I received this change, and my bid documents reflect that change, and we acknowledge it. So they can't come back later and say, well, you said in the original documents, we're supposed to put red lights in, but then you change it to say we need green lights. So that's how we get around there being confusion, is they have to acknowledge it on a form. It was a separate piece of paper. The instructions said, you know, sign this document and date it, and that'll be your official acknowledgement. Well, Eagle Electric didn't acknowledge on that form. What they did instead is they affixed a sticker to the front of the envelope, which acknowledged the change. And I bring this up because another contractor could potentially contest their bid, potentially. I talked to our legal counsel. This is considered an irregularity that does not involve the price, the time, or any changes to the project. So we have the right, you have the right as a board to waive that irregularity. Simply a clerical error. I talked to the contractor today. I got the background story on why they did it that way. They typically wouldn't. They had some extenuating circumstances, which is neither here nor there. But I am requesting that the board approves Eagle Electric as the winning bid for this project in light of the irregularity on how they acknowledge the addendum to the project.
That's a mouthful.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Any questions for Mr. Farrell? You feel confident in their ability to get things done?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, we work with them a lot. And in fact, they're working with us on the main power project at Capitol because they've done work on that, the original service that was provided to the CTE Center. So they're very familiar with the project and the school in general. So I'm very confident. You know, state law allows us, or allows you as a board, to waive these kind of informalities.
Right, do I have a motion for the Capitol High School Auditorium Stage Lighting Upgrade Project?
Chair Hathorn, not sure how I'm going to say this, but I move that we waive the irregularity to the addendum of the Eagle Electric bid and approve that award.
Very well stated. Trustee Cleveland. Do I have a second? I'll second. Second by Sastry. Is there any further board discussion or questions? Any public comment? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Up next, calendar committee proposal for the 25-26 school year. Is that Mr. McKay?
Yeah, Mr. McKay, he's got to make a trek up here, so he gives me 2 minutes to talk. As we all know, calendar, it hangs on the wall, looks like it, you know, you just plug in its calendar, everybody has one. It doesn't happen that way. There's a lot of work, there's a lot of ideas what a school calendar should look like. And so I want to thank Mr. McKay and the team to engage in this activity and do it with a real positive attitude, gathering everyone's input and then putting out what's best for our community. So, Mr. McKay, thank you.
You're welcome. Chair, trustees, Mr. Welch, I'd like to start with a moment of levity.
All right.
Okay, Mr. Verrill walked out.
Oh, man.
I know, he was gonna be the one that was gonna answer this question. So, I'm role modeling the fun we get to have as a team in, our calendar committee. We'll start off, we have this year with an interesting question to kind of generate conversation. So, one of the team members wanted me to ask Todd a question.
Specifically for Mr. Verrill.
Just
all right
for Mr. Verrill, but
Yes,
you
yes.
can
ask me.
And so I can ask you. You ready? Yep. What does someone say when they lose 25% of their roof?
That's swearing.
Yeah, this is a clean joke.
Okay.
This is.
Charlie needs some help.
No idea.
Adele?
Yeah.
No, we give Uncle.
Okay. Oof. Yeah, no, I got dared by a calendar committee to explanation what we do, but
In nearly 30 years. Yeah, I've never heard it.
yeah, oh, there you go. There's a first for you. So, yeah, good for a laugh, but we truly enjoy our work. This committee this year, Thomas Beatty, Jane Sean, Gary Myers, John Schwartz, Shannon Callahan, Leanne Wilson, Kathleen Brody, Chelsea Kingston, Justine Alberts, Brian Kessler, Josh McKay. Next year, Jen Mooney's already signed up. We're meeting already for next year's calendar. So we're excited to do the work. We have really serious conversations around what our community needs, what our educational system needs, our role as a care provider and educator, and kind of putting it all together and make it work for educators, students, and our system. This calendar, in a nutshell, is super similar to the current year. There are not, it's almost a carbon copy with a few date changes. What that means is we do the 3 days of student attendance at the beginning of the school year, matches our PIR needs to start up school. Then Labor Day happens, then we have a 5-day week. Kind of classic moving into, this is a 2-week winter break cycle. We really believe in trying to minimize 2-day work weeks. The student attendance is low there. And then that kind of drives the next step is where to place spring break. And so then we try to place spring break in a way that the 2 fourth quarters are somewhat even. And there's some reasons for that. A really long spring without a break towards the end of the year is pretty hard. So if you were to move it towards the last week of March entirely, then you have a 9 or 10 week run without a lot of breaks. So there's more balance there. This year it associates with one end of the Easter. So that's something we don't plan for, but it's a benefit sometimes for people that are traveling if that's important to them. So it really is a carbon copy. Things of note, we sent some calendar questions in our surveys that went to parents and staff. So our next step as a team that we're working on this spring is how do we respond or understand what they said or told us in the survey. And so we have an early start for the next year. That's the calendar.
Questions from Mr. Lake?
Proposal, I should say.
Trustee Armstrong.
Yeah, thank you. Assistant Superintendent McKay, I was just wondering, December 5th, are we doing grades? Is that what we have to?
So okay, good question. That particular day is a day where that circle symbol is where K-5 is dismissed early. And teachers that's where they chose to elementary to have a records day to work on report cards for standards-based grading. So then that was new in our current year. Was it our current year or the year before? Losing track.
This one.
This one. So we're choosing to continue something we installed in the current year. The same.
It worked well.
Yes, it worked well. The feedback is positive from educators. And then what happens is they finish those, and then the report cards themselves go out the week after to families. So it's what's different is the record stays for high schools and middle schools are centered around the semester timeframes. And so then standards-based reporting has a different schedule than the K-5. But it's similar to that. The other, I guess, other thing that we've done the last couple of years is your January looks a little different. We used to do a 2.5 day week in the middle of January centered around semester tests in the high school. That was a really difficult week in our K-8s because there wasn't as, I guess, what benefit to learning wasn't as great because you had such a short time frame. So we opted to try to create 2 4-day weeks in January as opposed to have 1 2.5 day week. So that's why January looks different, but it did this year. We're going to try it again next year. Our community is getting used to that. Remember, we had some comments about why is it this way, but it was truly to try to get 2 instructional weeks that were 4-day and not the short chunk of time for planning and learning.
Any questions about that? All right. Do I have a motion to adopt the calendar committee's proposal for the 2025-26 school year?
Chair Hathaway, I move that we adopt this proposal for the district calendar for the 25-26 school year.
Thank you, Trustee Satry. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second for Trustee McKee. Any further questions or discussion before we vote? Is there any public comment? All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 8-0. All right, the next 2 are policy, so, Mr. Sidgwick.
Okay, so before you have for action 2 policies. The first one is 1075, record management and access to public records. Been to the policy committee actually 3 times, and it's been used for information. And the only change is the extension of the time to respond from 10 days to 20 days.
Questions? All right, I would entertain a motion for policy 1075, records management and access to public records.
Chair Hathaway, I move approval of policy 1075, records management and access to public records.
Motion by Trustee McKee, is there a second?
I second.
Second by Trustee Cletus. Any further discussion? During public comment? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Policy 2000.
2000 student instructional goals on line 12. Again, it has been policy 3 times and has came to you for information last month. This was the addition of another protected class on line 12.
Any questions for Ms. Ridgway?
Sorry?
No, is there any questions for you?
Oh, sorry.
All right, seeing none, all those in favor? Oh, is there any public comment before we vote?
Motion.
Question? Oh, gosh, I'm really out.
Mhm.
No. Let's start that right over again.
Chair Hathaway, I move we approve
Thank you, Trustee.
policy 2000 student instructional goals as presented.
Motion by Trustee Hindor. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Trustee Satcher. All right. Is there any questions or further discussion before we vote? Any public comment before we vote? No. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 8-0. All right, items for information.
Policy 5000, equal employment opportunities and non-discrimination. We struck some language just to make the policy clearer, but on line 12, the genetic information needs to be underlined. That's new language that's required. And that's the addition we made in the last policy meeting. So make sure that we see that next time it's actually in there. That is the only change, those are the only changes to this policy. Moving on, unless there are questions. Moving on to 5050. The committee's recommendation is to repeal this policy, Montana VEBA, Volunteer Employee Beneficiary Association Health Benefits Plan. This policy was adopted a number of years ago to meet a request of 3 employees who are no longer with us. The guidance that goes along with forming a VEBA has changed, and the recommendation of the policy committee is to repeal it, and if at such time there was a need to bring it back, we would bring it back to the policy committee, but I think that's unlikely. Do you want to add anything, Jeff, since you probably know more about it too?
Don't like Phoebus.
There you go.
And just to clarify, we don't have to vote on a repeal.
You do.
I'll vote in the next time.
At the next meeting. I would just add to that, policy committees reviewing policies like we've never reviewed policies before. So, and
even during my tenure as chair of policy.
Well, let me think.
Yeah, it's like.
I think there's a potential for that coming with this briefing halt soon. As our attorney said, there'll probably be a dump load truck changes that are now face the policy.
I would say we're just warming up for what's coming out.
But good work to the committee. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Dwight. All right, we're already on to reports. Student representative reports.
Who gets to start?
You want to go first?
I want to play our favorites.
Do it here.
All righty. Okay. As Helena High moves into the second half of the school year, as always, our students and staff are immersed in academics, athletics, music, and art, as we were able to see, fulfilling and pursuing passions in every corner. Registration for the 2025 to 2026 school year will be underway shortly. Our annual 8th grade visit and tour will be taking place on Wednesday, February 26th. The 8th grade information night for parents will be held on March 3rd in the HHS gym, and all other grades will register throughout the month of March. Currently, HHS is conducting our spring round of mental health screening. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to provide the screener to all students at our school. This screening helps break down the barriers and stigmas associated with mental health and is helping us save lives. It really, really is. Aware of the importance of mental health, the University of Montana has put together a traveling event to help bring awareness. We're excited to host this event at HHS on March 3rd. Early in the afternoon, the university will host a listening and learning session with our students centered around mental health in our community and how to support those around us. The information and insights gained from the session will then be shared with teachers and community members. An interactive play will be presented at the Holter Museum that night, with a final community stakeholder action meeting the next day at the Myrna Loy. This will be an incredible opportunity for our school and community to continue to build on the conversation around mental health and how we support our students through difficult situations. Helena High has had an amazing opportunity to work closely with our individual departments, including today during our winter sports assembly. We did a real life dress to impress, which is basically where our departments dressed up in little fashionista outfits and walked the runway for our students this morning. So that was pretty great. But anyway, providing opportunity for departments to come together and plan for literacy and engagement strategies in the classroom. Rich and insightful discussions have been taking place around the skills students need to be successful and how to implement those into the classroom. Thank you to the foresight of engineers at Morrison, Maryland, I'm saying that right, okay? And connections built by Mr. Jonathan Driggers. Our technical math and physics students will be competing in a bridge building competition at the end of the month. Students will be working through the math and physics associated with load weights and structures, and they will then put their designs to the test with a bridge destroying event in the HHS gym. The students whose bridges are able to withstand the greatest amount of pressure will win. As part of our family engagement goals this year, we're working to find ways to build connection between students' home and school by inviting parents into our building. During finals week, we held our very first breakfast with the Bengals, which we have now dubbed Start Your Day the Bengal Way. We are fortunate to have parents and teachers help students start their day off right or the Bengal way with a donut. We will be doing this on the fourth Thursday of each month
for the remainder of the school year. We will mix up which breakfast items we provide and will continue to encourage parents and community members to help start our students' day off on the right foot. Board members are more than welcome to join us for the fun if they'd like to come hand out. Okay. With the wintry weather that arrived last week, our orchestra students unfortunately were not able to make it down to the AA Orchestra Festival. Mr. Cleary, though, from still creating an amazing event for our students. We appreciate his tenacity to find guest conductors and put together an opportunity for our students to still show off their talents and grow as musicians despite the hand they were dealt. Congratulations again to Mr. Askin for his recognition at the State DECA as the State DECA Advisor of the Year. Mr. Askin works hard to provide opportunities for our students to develop their skills and be prepared for the next chapter of their life. We've been very fortunate to have Miss Erin Cleveland join our staff this year. While she mainly oversees our transition classrooms, she has a deep desire to provide stability and opportunity for students who may not always have that in their lives. Thanks to her go-getter attitude and the connections she has built over the years, she is successfully implementing a mentor program at our school this semester. The time she's putting into this opportunity to connect students with the community and help them find their sense of belonging is greatly appreciated. Congratulations again to our thespian troupe. As we highlighted earlier tonight, our thespians had a spectacular showing at the Thespian Fest a few weeks ago. These students worked incredibly hard to perfect their craft and were rewarded for their commitment. And there's still one play left, Legally Blonde Jr., which I'm very excited about. I encourage you to come see it. Congratulations to all our student athletes who have signed so far this year to further their academic and athletic careers at the collegiate level. So far this year, there have been 15 members from the class of 2025 that will be competing next year across the board from track and field, cross country, soccer, basketball, dance, and football. This is a testament to the time and effort these individuals put in each day to better their sport while working hard in the classroom to be eligible for the next level. Congratulations to our welding students for their sweep of the podium in their competition against East Helena High a few weeks ago. The annual weld-off put on by HHS American Welding Society Club is a great opportunity to build community connections and show off the job-ready skills our students are learning in their CTE courses. The theme this year was Native American Heritage, and all groups did an amazing job of paying homage to Native American culture with their sculptures. Thank you to Mrs. Galbavy for all her work on this, and to the businesses and judges who gave their time to help make this event special. Congratulations to our DECA students who did it great at the state competition, a few of whom qualified for the national competition, and special congratulations to Mackenzie Groom for her selection as a state DECA officer. Congratulations to our speech and debate students on a great season. Ethan Taylor on his 3rd place finish in impromptu speaking and 7th place in original oratory. Shout out to Layla Riggs for her 6th place finish in legislative debate, and good luck to all our HHS speech and debaters as they compete in the national qualifiers this weekend. Congratulations to Evelyn Callery on her nomination as a presidential scholar. And then coming up, the annual Night to Shine Talent Show will take place on February 18th. Tickets are still available, as we heard from Mr. Askin. Come and see the amazing talent we have in our high school. Good luck this week to our wrestling and swimming teams as they compete at their respective state tournaments. Wrestling will be at the all-class event in Billings, while swimming will be up in Great Falls. Good luck to our speech and debaters as they compete to qualify for a spot in the National Speech and Debate Competition in Whitefish this weekend. Lastly, our basketball teams are having strong seasons so far and are making their way down the home stretch. We are hopeful for strong postseason representation from our teams. Our Bengal team remains involved, full of spirit, and hopeful for the exciting new month to come.
Questions?
Can you just remind me when they're doing, you invited us to come hand out donuts. When is that?
I believe it's, did I say the 3rd or the 4th Thursday? Every 4th Thursday of every month. And I know it was donuts this last time. I'm not sure if we're doing donuts. It doesn't matter. But
Steve Armstrong's not coming unless there's donuts.
oh well, I get it. I get it. Rainbow sprinkles?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm in.
Okay, twin. Okay. I didn't know that about us. We're best friends now, I guess.
And do you know what time in the morning that is?
I believe it's after 2nd period, so I can look up. Yeah.
Would you mind just throwing that out to the board on an email?
Yeah.
Yes, I totally. Oh,
perfect.
absolutely. Yes, I will.
Yeah, that would be fun.
So not too early.
So, thank you.
Candace and she sent me the one.
Can't remember what's the.
Yes.
You'd mentioned on March 3rd, the listening session and learning session. And then did you say that evening there's a play at the Holter?
It's the next evening. Yes. I believe.
That'll come in an email too.
Oh, okay, good.
Yes, it will.
That'd be great, because then you said
help
there's
us?
also something at the Myrna.
Yeah, at the Myrna Loy, and then I know that in the morning, at some point in the days, there's the little meeting and all that. So yeah, I will send out
Great,
information.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
I just have a question,
report.
and I think we talked about this a little bit last year, but do you feel like the students take the mental health screener pretty seriously and are sort of thankful for the whole program, or how do you feel like that goes over from a student perspective?
Yeah, so it's not something that takes a long time, which I think our generation very much appreciates because we're always scrolling on TikTok or doing something. So I think that was very well considered when giving it to students to complete. I do believe kids are honest because my generation's just looking for someone to care. They really are. And it has saved lives at our school. It really, really, really has. And it doesn't just flag the like, oh, this is really bad. We need to pull this kid in. The little things. It'll flag and say, do you just want to come talk for a minute? We want to make sure you're okay. I've had tons of friends that they're pulled in. Thank you so much for asking. So because of the short amount of time it takes to take it and the intention behind each question and the purpose, I think there's great response. You're obviously going to have a handful of kids who are just clicking through. You always will. But other than that, I think it's something that's appreciated overall. So.
All right, my
Just
turn.
Hellman.
All right. Good evening, trustees. As we move further into the second semester, Capitol High students and staff are staying very busy with academics, extracurricular activities, and career readiness opportunities. Here's what's happening at CHS. All CHS students recently completed the RBHI, Rural Behavioral Health Institute Winter Screener during their second period classes. Therapists from Pureview Health Center and RBHI were present to provide immediate support for students who scored in the higher ranges of the index. I might add that this screener is an important tool that we use to gauge student mental health, and it's crucial, especially during winter months when studies have shown that vitamin D deficiency leads to some mood disorders and depressive symptoms. Freshman PE students have started their equivalent of youth mental health awareness curriculums, which is called YAM, Youth Aware of Mental Health. And it's a mental health education program designed to build awareness and coping strategies. I did it when I was a freshman. It was great. The first session is currently running with the second session planned for later this spring. Last Wednesday, CHS administered the Youth Risk Behavior Survey to all students during their third period. This survey, conducted by the State Office of Public Instruction, was completed online with unique identification numbers for every student to ensure anonymity. So that one, I will add an addendum to Adela's comments earlier. The YK or YRBS survey was very, very long and very, very detailed and very, very intensive. And that one definitely will see some careless responses because, I mean, it had questions that I couldn't even remember about the last month, like every single aspect. It was not just mental health. It was at every aspect of a student's behavior. So I made it through, but I know that a lot of other kids did not. But the RBHI is a very effective tool. And like Adela said, I would mirror everything she said. It's a great tool. So anyway, going on, Scholarship Night recap. Our career counselor, Aspen Herndon, hosted Scholarship Night on January 28th, covering essential topics such as scholarship opportunities and essay writing assistance, FAFSA guidance because the March 1st preferential deadline is coming up, and then also talked about WUI, the Western Undergraduate Exchange Program, and GI Bill education benefits. In honor of CTE Education Month, which is February, and I was actually at the gubernatorial proclamation at the Capitol for CTE Month. Super exciting. CHS hosted Trades Day yesterday, providing students with hands-on experiences in various skilled trades. Thanks to the efforts of all of our industrial tech teachers, Tom Kane, Lucas Canny, and Ted Reel, students in fundamental woodworking and design classes rotated through interactive stations, including hanging and taping sheetrock, trim work, plumbing simulators, electrical wiring, flooring installation, sheet metal work, welding, and cabinet making. So it was really awesome. For other student events and activities, I know we've already talked about it multiple times, but the annual DECA Night to Shine showcase will take place on February 18th at 7 p.m. at the Civic Center. Yes, I will be performing. I believe I'm last for the night, so you'll have to stay. Me and my best friend are playing Thunderstruck by the Two Cellos, so it'll be really fun. Tickets are available now, and all proceeds will help CHS and HHS DECA students. Students have been working very hard in preparation, I will say, and it promises to be a very fantastic evening. Also, as we heard earlier, rehearsals are in full swing for CHS first ever winter musical, The Mean Girls, which will debut later this month. The cast and crew have been working tirelessly, and anticipation is building for an exciting set of performances. CHS HOSA, in conjunction with the Helena Health Science Advisory Board and Carroll College Student Nursing Association, will host a fusion event on Sunday, February 25th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. in O'Connell Room 107 at Carroll College. This event will focus on cardiovascular health because February with Valentine's Day is Cardiovascular Health Awareness Month, and will feature a hands-on CPR breakout session with all the Carroll College CPR dummies, which will be really fun. All students, regardless of age or ability, interested in healthcare careers or general health education are encouraged to attend. CHS basketball, wrestling, and swimming teams are in the thick of their seasons with key competitions coming up. Swimming is coming up soon for state in Great Falls. As Adela said, she stole my thunder on so many of these things. Our speech and debate team has also had a very strong season, competing in multiple tournaments and representing CHS with excellence. Something different than what Adela said, CHS National Honor Society members logged an impressive 3,085 community service hours during the first semester alone, demonstrating their commitment to leadership and service within Helena. I'm looking forward to seeing what our club can do for both semesters combined. With second semester now underway, it's time to look forward to next year. CHS students have been, have been engaged in ongoing curriculum discussions, reviewing current course pathways, course preferences, and scheduling logistics. These conversations will help determine staffing needs and course offerings for the upcoming school year. Student registration for the 2025-2026 school year will begin later this February, allowing students to select courses that align with their academic and career goals. I remember when I was first signing up for all of my freshman classes, and I think I had 2 or 3 elective science options already, and I every year I just have to narrow down a list of 12 to something barely manageable. So we have lots of really great opportunities for students at Capital High. Capital High is thriving as we continue to provide students with meaningful academic experiences, career readiness opportunities, and mental health support. Thank you for your continued commitment to our students, and I look forward to sharing more updates next month.
Questions for Mr. Snellman?
Yeah.
That February 25th event, did you say the room number? No.
Yes, room 107.
Okay, thanks.
It subject to change, but it's one of the big lecture halls, and there'll be tons
Yeah.
of signs and people there.
You said 6:30?
Yes, so 6:30 is when we're going to start with kind of like a food and social 30 minutes, and then the actual presentation by senior advanced nursing students from the Carroll Nursing Student Nurses Association. Will start their presentation at 7, and then that'll be kind of pretty short, 20 minutes maybe, as long as we have interest. And then after that, we'll start all of the skills breakout sessions. But yeah, it'll be done by 8 for sure.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you
All right.
both very much. Thank you for your work up at the Capitol.
Yeah.
I've gotten a lot of positive comments from that, and if we can ever pull you into the fold, we would do that as well. Both of you are so well spoken, and it's really nice to have a student voice up there. So
Really, it's
thank you. Yeah. Let's see. How about Helena Education Association? Is Jane here?
She is online, but she is not.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Facilities and tech.
We as
What did you do?
facilities
How are
and
you gonna put this
technology,
out?
I, as the sole member of the Facilities and Technology Committee, convened a meeting of our subquorum yesterday for purposes of conducting a facility tour with several of the other trustees that went along with us. Both Chair Hathorn, Trustee Armstrong went along, and some of our staff folks and the folks from SMA as well to take a look at 3 of our, key facility problems. Started at Helena High, and then I had to pop out, and you guys went over to the west side to go to both Kessler and Capitol High. So I will let those of you who got in on the full tour. I did get to go check out the boiler room at Helena High, which is pretty impressive as far as its age. And then also the room in the library where we've seen the picture and the photo, the example, the failed fin tube and the pipes that have broken and fallen through the floor and what that's done to the walls. So, without a doubt, the condition of, as we've discussed before, that facility is in a place where we've got to do something about it. But you guys got to go see the other 2 as well. So what was that like?
Kessler is a place I haven't worked, but I've spent a fair amount of time there doing extracurricular activities with various children's groups. And, that it's not even a building. It's a series of buildings, it feels like, that have been built and sort of stuck together. And I think a long time ago when, before the earthquake, it probably was somewhat nice, but it's just very odd. Sometimes the hallways are maybe 3 to 4 feet wide, and we went to 2 areas where the breakout spaces, they had all their winter clothes on because there's no place for them to do their group work, and they were sitting down in a I mean, they weren't freezing, but just to tell you that the level of facility that's supporting education, I think, is very minimal there. And I know it's being targeted for replacement, and I think that would be a really good choice for what I saw and what I know about it. Trustee Armstrong?
Yeah, I would add that there's some rooms they have to use downstairs, but there's no way for students with mobility issues to access them. So that's an ongoing issue. Sometimes you have to walk through an actual classroom or area to get to a meeting room. We did see students literally sitting on steps by doors because it's an old building. There's no breakout space. And then I would just say for Helena High, Gary was talking today about electrical and technology, significant issues in that building. You can't put the clocks up with, in case there's a safety issue to announce to everyone quickly. That just doesn't have the capacity to do that. And then, of course, we just heard tonight about Capitol High with its gremlins. So, yeah, we do have to definitely, it's very clear. We have to be moving forward to take care of some of these issues.
So 2 things on that. One is that the staff in those 3 buildings across our district are doing amazing work in some pretty inadequate facilities, and they have for years. And so I want to acknowledge just the work they're doing. Well, you talked about at Kessler, we're doing breakout sessions and we're putting coats on kids and walking down to a double door that leads to the outside, using those steps as our breakout centers. All right. That opposed to what we see in our 3 new schools with large breakout areas that are well lit and warm with tables. All right. There's no comparison. Ms. Armstrong, could you speak a little bit what you saw at Capitol CTE? What does that building look like? Yeah.
I'm fond of CTE. I started off as an engineering student. They have so much machinery in there, and they're doing the kids and the staff are so professional, but my gosh, I was very uncomfortable. They are at the minimum standards for separation of that equipment. I did see someone welding behind a curtain, but we should definitely give them more space, and we cannot expand that building due to the roof structure. I think a few weeks ago I was in the Learning Lab, which is a really great facility. Again, it's outside. You were sending our students outside, and it was about 0. And it's just not as safe as we would. Yeah. We don't want them walking building to building during the winter or for safety reasons.
Again, no indication of what Mr. Weber does with his program. Phenomenal work that he does, but the amount of machinery that he needs to teach kids skills, we're just out of room, and quite frankly, it's inadequate. So that needs to change.
Very much so. And then we were also in the kitchen staff, and Robert Worthy does an amazing job, but the doorway does not allow for stuff to be brought in on pallets. They have to bring it on a hand cart. So they had the door open this morning for a couple hours in order to bring the food in.
And so that room was 30 degrees. They're cooking in parkas because of the food movement of bringing it into the supplies into that area is cold. So they're literally cooking in coats.
Yeah, I mean, that's the unfortunate part. Nobody likes to have to spend money on the plumbing of their house, right? I mean, we like to get shiny, fancy granite things. But our struggles, we've been behind on the regular stuff we need to do. So Robert Worthy talked about, I think he has like 6 or 9 ovens, and a significant portion of them he's just using as storage because they don't actually work. He's got these big pots he cooks in. Some of them are literally just beginning to corrode, and the repairman was like, they are well beyond life expectancy. So it's a lot to take in, but yet these are real issues that we have to address.
So consequently, through that tour, my hope was the objective was to get trustees out to see. We talk about it here, and we talk about the steam boilers, the kettles, if you will, the 4,000 square feet, which standards would be 12,000 square feet of a central kitchen for a district our size. I wanted you to be able to just put boots on the ground and see it and see in action what kids are up to and what our staff are doing within the facilities. So I hope that was beneficial to see, and wasn't the last one. There will be many more.
Just gonna add on a little bit about capital. I mean, the facilities master plan did ring true. You know, there was areas that were really, really needed improvement, like the trustee Armstrong talked about. But, you know, in general, the hallways and it's pretty good. And Brett Zanto gave us a really nice tour and talked about ways that we can use that existing building and bring it up to educational standards and also social standards. You know, it's got a really, you can speak to this, it's got a very small, not very welcoming cafeteria, I would say. No. And, you know, to have a big open space for students and to, you know, do breakout groups, but also have your lunch and some social time there. So it's nice to know that there's, you know, it's a solid building that can be well utilized, but also needs some significant improvements was my takeaway on that one.
Opposed to what Mr. Hindoing or Trustee Hindoing has said before, through the years, we heard that Capital has pretty good bones. That's worthy investment to upgrade. Helen High is not that same building, all right? The bones in that building are not well. Mr. Vera will bring a new report from an engineer on 3 options for the boilers, the returns, the heat pumps, all of those options that we can temporarily get by and or complete replacement for that building. You know, we'll submit that next month.
When we're talking about Helena High, you have to understand, like, these boilers are vintage. I'm sure you could sell them for antiques, but the pipes are buried in concrete. And so you cannot have oxidation, so the pipes are rusting. And to get access to those pipes, you're going to have to tear all that up. So that's one of the reasons why it's so expensive. But the age, it started leaking. Oxygen's obviously going through the system, so it's accelerating its own kind of self-destruction there. And obviously, we're concerned. I mean, you just look today at the temperature today. If that goes off, what does that mean? So
last night at Helena Education Foundation meeting, the Helena student rep asked me, what happens if it breaks? What happens if we shut down? And the answers, as we've said before, we have some online options and we have split shift options. Mr. Verrill's working on contingency plans that if this should go south, those boilers, you know, how fast can we get it repaired? And repair means sunk money, right? It's just money thrown into a building that's never going to be recouped. Those boilers will not come back to life and or rebuild them and put them in a new building. So we are working through those options, but the gravity of it is that we'd probably split shift. It was a good question from a student. They're thinking.
Okay, budget and finance.
Charlie has accepted.
Oh, Charlie.
I mean, it's really not too important, but I mean, the same thing at Kessler and Helena High is happening at Capital, even though it's a lesser degree. Like, I still have to bring my big puffy Columbia jacket into AP Gov every day because the basement is just so cold every day. And the colder it gets outside, the colder it gets in the building. And I'm not sure what the state of the Capitol boilers are, but I'm sure it's slightly better than Helen High. And I don't know. It gets very cold at school. And I mean, the same thing with the power outages. I haven't been there with the really big one where it's the whole school, but pretty much every day the power in the two classrooms downstairs, my AP Gov classroom, and the neighboring classrooms, all the power goes out and everything shuts off because a student plugged in their computer to charge and it overloads the circuit. So like pretty much every day. Like today it happened twice during the presentation. So it definitely is a problem, and I'm glad that we're moving forward with bonds to fix things.
So perhaps last comment on that. Though we focus on Helena High in its status, we haven't put money into our high schools in over 35 years, maybe 40. And so there are needs, even though the attention draws here, it doesn't mean that there's not there. And so we really, as a collective group, need to start focusing on having facilities that are adequate for both sides of town. And we haven't done that for a while. And it's painful when you don't do something and then you start. Fitness, exercise is a good example. First foot out the door is tough, but once you start moving, it gets to be a little easier, and we need to start moving. So I appreciate this board to direct me to move forward, sometimes fast. So appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Finance, budget finance.
Perfect. After discussing, I don't know, it looks to me like $55 million worth of deferred maintenance between the three schools that we visited. We met today. Pretty much our budget is on track. There were a few issues in which we're spending a little more. That was mainly cell phone stipends, and that is that's something we've tried to cut. It's complicated because we have contracts with various different groups, and some groups actually really need them to function, especially groups we call on the weekends to come into the schools to deal with things. So, but pretty much we're on track. We went over the interlocal fund. That is this kind of savings account between the two districts that we're using. We started off the year just under 6 million. We're currently down to just under 3.9 million. That is how we are offsetting the deficit we are running. And of course, that is limited funds, so we can't continue in this fashion, but we're pretty much on the projection Ms. Mickelson gave us. In terms of the very big picture, we are looking, hopefully STARS will be passed. That looks like it's going to be about 2 million. That's going to basically offset the deficit. We're looking at a 3% increase in funding. I caution everyone, that's not going to really be extra money. You have to account for steps and lanes. You have to account for the contracts we've already signed. You have to account for increases in utilities and water. And last year we had a 17% increase in liability. That cost us an extra $196,000. Janelle is projecting a 15% increase. So let's say maybe like $175,000. So if you get $1 million, I would expect we'd see a little bit, but not enough to do anything to compensate our staff, who of course deserve much more than we're able to offer at this point. And that's the gist of it. I mean, we're doing what we intended. We're using the interlocal to offset it so that we did not have to make more drastic cuts than we did, and it bought us time to await the legislature, and looks like they're going to come through with some money, but it's not going to be enough more than to keep our head above water at this point without additional funding. So that's why I'm interested in the 6th grade the funding, because that would be on top of that. So, but I think we're right where we projected we would be.
Yes. Oh, just quick add. Janelle puts together a 5-year forecast. In between sessions, that's pretty easy because we know what the inflationary increases looks like. For us to have an idea what our 5-year looks like, there's a lot of variables up there that have not been decided. And so for us to say, hey, Janelle, what's it going to look like? That crystal ball is not clear. We don't know all the variables. We don't know what sixth grade looks like. We don't know what the effect of the 3 and 4 year old preschool, especially preschool funding looks like. We don't know what the 2-3 year percentage inflationary increase is going to be, if we can actually get the full 3%, or we have to come back and ask for the 20% on top. We don't know if the STARS is completely going through yet. So there are many, many variables. I just read through an update through Montana School Boards Association. There's more funding opportunities that are coming at us that we're just not aware of. And so for us to ask Janelle and her office to give us a clear idea of what our funds look like next year, that's impossible. We can only speculate. And in regards to that, she also, in that 5-year forecast, puts down assumptions, assuming that the natural gas is going to do, assuming power is going to do this, assuming insurance is going to do this. We just don't have it. And that's going into negotiations. We need those answers before we can move forward. So this really puts us back a little bit. Now, next year, that all will be done up there and we'll have a better idea, and that 5-year comes earlier. But right now, every 2 years is pretty difficult. We're going to give her some grace so we can figure out what it looks like.
It is worth it. It's been a long time since our head is actually above water. Like, it's not where we want to be, but at least, I mean, we've been drowning for years. So it doesn't give us room to grow, but I do want to recognize that if everything comes together, our heads will actually be above water for the first time in years. We won't just be spending our savings. And
That's one of the reasons why we're proposing a tech levy.
yeah,
Because
exactly.
we don't want to just sit out here and tread
Totally.
water.
We can't just tread water.
We want to get a little bit above the water, at least get our feet on the ground and be standing above the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just really appreciate the board and the community and the staff, because we have tackled quite a bit of long-standing issues in a short amount of time. It's not all perfect, we course correct, but I really appreciate everyone, being willing to stand up in the fire. That is, because the cause is worth it. So, thank you.
Thank you. Policy, Trustee Walsh.
Good evening, everybody. Bring my papers in order. So with policy committee, kind of as Barb had said, we're moving through a lot of review. Some of the policies actually didn't have any changes to them, as you see here. We did further discuss some of the clarification needs for the VIBA. We feel pretty confident that we can repeal that without any repercussions from that, and that this is the right move to make. We also took a look again at the policy 5085, which is substitutes and how they're being compensated. So if you have a substitute for a classified person, they come in and they're paid by the hour. Where it gets a little bit snicky, if you will, is when you have a classified person such as a paraeducator come in and substitute for a teacher for a class. And it was kind of broken down that while substitutes work, I think it was half days and full days, when you have paraeducators come in, it could be that they're just covering one class, or that they're covering a couple of sessions until somebody else can come in and that sort of thing. So it's not as clear cut, but they are saying that the paraeducator, whichever rate is higher, whether that's the substitute rate or their own hourly rate, is what they would be paid for that substitution time. So that was really nice to have further clarification on that. Something else that we had a lot of discussion over was policy 5055, which is just in regards to leave. There's a specific section on bereavement that we were able to get a lot of information on, and is going to be back for our next policy meeting.
Questions for Trustee Wall? Thank you. All right, teaching and learning, Trustee McKee. All right, hold on to your hats. It's a romp of good news. Before I jump on that, I totally wanted to piggyback on what Adela said about the alternative AA music festival. That was amazing. I mean, the roads were closed, and I don't know how long it took. I mean, hours, a matter of hours, right, to split up an entire music festival. just getting the food organized for that many people and transportation would be several days. I was so impressed by that. It was so cool.
Mr. Clary's a pretty cool.
Yeah,
amazing
super
guy.
cool. I was very impressed. All right, teaching and learning. So the topic was about data, but it wasn't really just digging into the data. It was more talking about, we did dig into some of the data, but it was more like how data is used. And there was a series of presenters. Bryant was there, and this was really cool. So Bryant set, every school sets school-wide goals for growth. Bryant met their year-long goals for growth in 3 months, which is utterly amazing to me. And we asked how they did it, and you would think that it would be like, we drilled the kids, but it actually started with like kind of like just a circle of all the staff before the school year started, of just getting everybody, giving everyone a chance to just share their values and kind of live their values and feel them being expressed. And I'm sure there was some drilling. I'm sure that came later, but it was very impressive how well that worked. And let's see, I have my notes here. Mr. Burton was going to give some information about Jefferson, but unfortunately he was out. But then Cal Boyle was here from HMS, and they talked about like all the schools are kind of doing two things, especially schools that have a higher than average rate of kids coming in and kids coming out. Bryant has like 40% of Bryant kids are coming in and coming out all the time. So on the one hand, you're like running this core curriculum thing of these kids who are going to be there for the entire year. And then you have this whole other task at hand of catching these kids wherever they are, figuring out where they are, moving them up to where they need to be as quickly as possible, and then being able to hand that off to wherever they end up going. Ideally, it's within our own district, but oftentimes it's not. So there's this whole, like when you just look at school-wide data, it's not like it was all the same kids on day one that were there after 3 months and you just worked really, really hard and by gosh, you did it. You were working with 60% of the kids who were there and then 40% who were in and out multiple times. It's not even the same 40. I mean, it's amazing the level of complexity that goes into any amount of growth, really. And HMS is kind of the same thing. I mean, like they'll have 700 kids, but 200, one a day, one's in, one's out every single day. The principal at Bryant said that there were just the day she was here, or maybe it was the week, they got 4 new kids, 3 are homeless, and 1 is in like a special program for kids who are kind of essentially homeless. I mean, that was just like, how do you have to be there to meet so many needs for that kid before they even start growing, and yet they also grow on top of it. I mean, it was just, the obstacles are amazing, and even more amazing is that they're overcoming them, which I thought was mind-blowing. Cal Boyle said something super cool that stuck in my mind was when he gets kids, they're in year 7 of their educational journey, and a lot of times if they've been behind for years, it becomes a little entrenched. And then they get in this dilemma of, well, do we put them in kind of a siloed out, I'm going to use the term resource room, that's antiquated, but we all know what that is, and have them apart from their peers and just juice them up all the time, and et cetera, et cetera. But in HMS's experience, when you put kids with their peers, their grade level peers, they will have 5 times as much growth as if you just put them in a siloed classroom designed for growth. So they consider the core is the optimal environment for maximizing growth, not a special thing. And they will pull kids out to give them extra help if they need it. But by and large, they want kids in the core, growing with everyone else, growing faster than everyone else, which I thought that was really amazing. And also I was impressed that they're tracking it so closely. Like, it's not just a school, it's almost it's like they're just constantly monitoring the data all the time. Let's see, what else? Brett Zanto talked about focus time that was instituted this year at Capitol High. I'm sure that Charlie Snowman knows more about it than I do.
Intervention time, yeah.
But it came from looking at Bozeman does it and Hellgate does it in Missoula, and it's this like time in between. It's set aside time in between two bills where you go, and if you are behind, you're missing an assignment, you're et cetera, is a chance for you to do all of that stuff and meet with kind of like an advisor and make sure that you get all of your work in, which any parent who gets Power School notices on their phone knows that missing class assignments are something that come up. So anyway, I thought it was cool that apparently the students don't love every single thing about is it enrichment time? Is that what it's called? Intervention time. But you just start where you are, you know, and it doesn't have to be perfect out of the box, and it can become more perfect over time, and it's doing something that is necessary. And every freshman it's not discretionary. Like if you were an older grade, you don't have to go for your intervention time, but every freshman goes to intervention time.
You're supposed to go to your intervention. Yes.
I've
I'm sure
heard
you
that.
heard from Mr. Zanto the struggles of keeping upperclassmen in the building when they
Yes.
have nothing to do. Nothing to do. But, yeah.
Yeah, but I appreciated his flexibility and his inventiveness and his willing to try something new. I mean, if you never try, then you'll never know if you can be successful. So it was another slam dunk of a teaching and learning committee, of seeing how the work gets done, and it's totally impressive how it gets done. That was teaching and learning.
Questions? All right, health benefits. Okay, we had. You get a prize if you make it that cheery.
Health benefits speaks for itself.
So
It's dessert. Actually, this will be kind of more neutral, just information. So, we met for a full day on January 30th, and we're working through developing our framework and for moving through our RFP, submissions and process. So we just solidified a scoring process. We're looking at having finalist presentations in the beginning of April sometime. We're still confirming that, so it's not set. We're giving out a survey to all members to help gauge what members want, as well as how much they know about or don't know about our current plan, and to help the survey actually be kind of informative in ways as well. So that was the whole, gist of our meeting, was talking about that scoring process and setting a timeline. The end.
Questions for Trustee Stanton? Good for you.
Yeah.
Or not. All right, wellness. I'm not sure if Barb is here. Pull her back in a minute. Why don't we? I can jump ahead to Montana school boards. Been primarily up at the Capitol, trying to get in front of as many bills as possible. It's been a learning curve for me. There's several, I think maybe they've already mentioned already in this meeting, but I'll just update it from an MTSBA perspective. STARS, which is our big kind of inflation. They're hoping to make up 10% inflation that we lost in the last few years. And that has passed second reading. And HB 320 also passed the second reading at 51 to 48. And 320 is the tax credit that those two, I think, are the biggest for us. One in a positive, in my opinion, and the other one is a way to get some of the education monies out of the hands of public schools and into the hands of private or independent people. Working very hard to lobby those remaining legislators, and we really only need to flip over one vote, and then it would die in committee. So I spent the afternoon writing a lot, which I thought would be kind of silly, but I've actually been hearing back from probably a third of the people that I've written.
Yeah.
So
I did last night.
that's really exciting. Trustee Cletus and Trustee Satchery are also kind of, more officially signed up and have been up there a lot. Do you guys have anything that you want to add?
You want to say something? I have not been up there a lot, but I appreciate so much the people who have. And Charlie, I've also heard about your testimony. So, yeah, I've been sending a lot of letters.
Yeah. So thank you. We're You know, and we have had the budget problems that we've had and some of the other, you know, whatever the problems are, to go up there and to try to do our best to make a difference and make a change. I'm really appreciative of the people in our community and our board for, you know, for being present for that. And of course, we don't know what our influence will be, but you also won't know if you don't try. Yeah.
I did have a question. So for the 320 we know other states have done some type of tax credit or vouchering, and it has imploded their state budget. Is MTSBA or the coalition doing any type of advertising to bring that to the attention of the public? Like, this is what happens?
Right
I
now,
think so,
they're
Arizona.
advocating for, you know, for the public school system. I don't know that they really get into outreach in that. I don't think that that's part of their operating philosophy.
Yeah.
But I know that they've definitely targeted that one. There's also, as there oftentimes is, you know, some sort of trading of, you know, I'll follow your bill if you follow my bill. Some folks feel that HB 320 will be tied up in the courts and will not come out. Others feel that it, even if that happens, it's still a step in the direction towards privatization of public funds. So I think there's a variety of ways of looking at that. Did you want to add something, Superintendent Wells?
Yeah, I could talk for a long time on this one, but quickly, the Arizona example exists. If you Google it and look at public education in Arizona, you'll find information about what it looks like currently. The opponents for this bill would say that that's not true, that there's a surplus of money. And so they're really becoming a cloud. It just murkies the water and really makes the indecisiveness of what really is going on. And maybe that's the strategy. Sam, school administrators of Montana, Rob Watson, has in his affiliation nationally, has met with some individuals from Arizona that can testify and has testified that it has not gone well in Arizona with a voucher system. It's a crack in armor, what we're seeing now. What we saw 2 sessions ago was the start of what now we see this session, what we're going to see in 2027. And there is a steady influence of money leaving, from what our understanding is, into other sectors away from public ed. And so there are examples and testimonial from Arizona, a parent from Arizona that's an expert in the situation. The environment in Arizona doesn't look good, but you would then the other side say that's not true. And so you're seeing polar opposites. And quite frankly, when we got into a meeting tonight here, I was listening to the appropriations on this bill, and the supporters of the bill would say that it's going really well in Arizona. It's actually public education as strong as ever, and they've had as much money as they've ever had before. And the other side would say that's not true. And so you're really just splitting down the middle. And they finished by saying, no offense, Mr. Hindoy, but lawyers can't agree, and we're always going to have issues with each other. That's what the end heard last night.
So essentially, facts don't matter.
Just gonna point out that every single national merit or Montana University System scholarship recipient for education is a Helena Public School student and from no other schools in the area. So, I mean, I think we continue to prove that we do very well with that, and I would hate to see that affected in any way. Vouchers can be good, but we're one of the few places in the country where no matter where you live in the Helena, no matter the size of your house or your background, you're going to sit in the same classrooms together with the same teachers. And it really is about a community. And you just talked about, you know, having kids that were behind be in the regular classroom, because kids learn from each other just as much as they learn from teachers. They listen to the questions other strong students ask. And so it's just, obviously it's very concerning, but we continue to do very well with what we have. And I think we've justified the funding we get with stellar outcomes. So
The other piece to the HB 320, the tax credit, is that was heard on in education committee, and they had hundreds of people come and testify. And even though most people had not attended public schools, they had a lot of negativity to share. And, that's why being advocates for public schools and making sure that the other side of the coin is shared, is really important.
I think it's important for us to understand that what this is not a political agenda for us as Helena Public Schools. It doesn't matter Republican or Democrat. What it does to me is that I'm trying to protect this district. You're trying to protect the district against litigation that's going to cost thousands and thousands of dollars. At some point, this is going to go to court, and so it doesn't matter what you believe in your political stance. It does matter that we protect this district against litigation, of potential litigation later. And I think we're going to see this come to reality, and somebody's going to land in litigation of this bill and others. That same morning prior to 320 being heard in House Education, you all spoke on the 10 Commandments. Now, I'm not saying one way or another what I believe in, but I do think that's going to be a litigated circumstance later down the line. It's going to cost us or other districts money to support our stance from the Ninth Circuit. Right? And so it's not about the politics. It's about what's best for kids, but it's also how do we make sure that we do what's right for this district.
All right, I'll just go through the remaining ones we have here. Senate Bill 258 was heard today. Do you know how that went, Jennifer?
That Laura's
Yeah.
She said that it went really well, actually. I don't think she was expecting it necessarily to be heard today. But she said that it went surprisingly well.
Okay, and that's in another inflationary adjustment. And then HB 266 is our own Luke Miskevich, and that's another annual inflation adjustment, and it is passed committee. So, and then another Helena one, Romano. This was one that is near and dear to my heart when they had targeted intervention for preschool students. It was only for literacy. And as someone who's spent, a good couple decades teaching elementary school kids, low income kids or people that would be targeted, in my experience, have a harder time with numeracy than they do with literacy. And so my first question was, well, where's the numeracy? So I'm really happy that she brought that up. I think that it would have a tremendous impact on our ability to reach the needs of our most challenged students. So I'm really crossing my fingers on that one. And that's
what's the number of them?
That one is HB 338. And it's already out of committee. It's passed. And and I can't remember the numbers, but it was really received well by everyone in the committee.
Do you know what bills have been tabled that didn't make it out?
Now that I don't know. That
I don't
test
either.
I cannot pass.
I don't have that one either.
I'm trying to think of any that were important.
What happened to the funding for the decennial study?
Yeah, good point. We really watched early the amount of money set aside for the decennial study. We knew that if they put $400,000 in, it was going to be an important study. But I think there was 18,000 set aside, and we all were a little nervous about that. But we didn't know is the governor has set aside 300,000 for the study. So it wasn't through appropriations that we had that money set aside. It's through the governor's budget.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Good on that. And last, parent council visit reports. Yeah, I know you probably had a list for me, or we didn't have any for this one. Okay. Yeah. Candace has been working on getting signups. I've signed up for one. Candace and I'll get together. We might be reaching out to see if we can fill some of those extra slots before the end of the year. So you could be thinking of that if you have some time to do that a night of between now and the end of the year. If not, that's okay as well. Trustee Armstrong?
Not parent council visits, but I think literally half the board was there for when the Montana Board of Education came to the charter schools. So that was a really great representation. Thanks, you guys. I did go to the Learning Lab for their celebration. Are you guys familiar with their Learning Lab? So it takes students behind in credits, and it's a community kind of like PAL, but it's a different community because they're online. You go into the kind of the container. They painted the tiles on the roof. They actually got the old booths from the Jimmy John's that closed down. It really kind of reminded me of kind of like a college meeting room. I got to speak with several students that had very different stories, but this was a program that really worked for them. They loved that they could validate some of the material at the beginning and not have to go through it. I got to sit there while one of the assistant principals at Capital came in to tell a student because they made up the credits, they were now eligible to compete for the swim team. Which is what it's all about, right? So, yeah, so that was a great visit.
Thank you. And this isn't a parent council, but trustee Cletus and I were at a small listening session, but it was a listening session with the community on face to face. It was actually really interesting. It was very small, so you could have a true conversation with people, and it was great. There was great feedback, and it kind of prompted me to think about what we could do with phones in a somewhat different way, or at least see that we have. This is an area that we have sort of like control over what happens. And so many of our problems we don't. So it could be a bigger conversation about, I mean, maybe we want to try like 1 week every high school, both high schools. We'll just try a week with bell to bell, no phones. I'm just spitballing, guys. I'm not saying that's what we decided to do. We didn't decide anything because we were just listening.
Yes.
It was also interesting to hear there's some misunderstanding about the current technology the district has. Gary, you will appreciate this. One of the community members who was there mentioned that you could like watch pornography on YouTube on your Google Chromebook, and I happen to know that for a fact that is an absolute lie because you can't even access all Google products on your Google Chromebook. Certainly you can't watch YouTube on your Google Chromebook. But it was interesting that the community there, if you are not in the world of devices, you don't really understand what's real in terms, and this was more about phones, but just like screens in general in our classrooms. You don't know what our screens are capable of, the ones that we own, and the many things that they're not capable of. So it was kind of an eye-opener.
All right. Any further comments on the reports? I'll move to upcoming meetings. Tuesday, February 25th. That's our work session at Bryant, starting at 3:30 for tour and 4 o'clock for business. Tuesday, March 4th, policy, 12 o'clock noon here. March 5th, 12 o'clock, teaching and learning here. Friday, March 7th, we have our budget and finance committee at noon. And Monday, March 10th, facilities and technology here at noon. Tuesday, March 11th is 5:30, our next full board meeting at the Lincoln Center. And finally, Tuesday, March 25th is our next work session at Helena High School, 3:30 tour and 4 o'clock business.
Already talking about March.
I know, isn't that crazy? Yeah, I know when the student reps started talking about plans for next year, it's like, oh my gosh, I feel like we're still in the middle of this year, but here we go. All right, are there any further board comments before we adjourn? Thank you, everyone. It's a great meeting, and this meeting is adjourned. Here.